Get that going. Okay, you're now sending on
We are sending audio.
right now. But you're monitoring. And then over here.
Should we turn off the audio?
I love it.
Oh yeah,
Those are awesome. But
they are very
the
awesome.
high from that
It's
versus,
different.
yeah, it's completely different.
I tell people it's like masturbation. It gets the job done, but it ain't the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
That's how we start the live stream.
And everybody that I tell that to, they're like, "That's a very good analogy. Like that's spot on." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, that's spot on."
Yeah.
I know it.
It's like just numbing.
It's different. It's not the same.
Right.
Same thing with like the edibles. I don't mind edibles, but it's just a different type of.
Yeah. I
You
haven't.
guys ready to go? You guys are on.
Good.
Oh, we're on?
Yeah, you're on.
Right on.
Talking about my medical marijuana card here and my vape pen and how it's like masturbation. It's not the real thing. If any of you guys ever had pens, you guys know what the fuck I'm talking about.
That's right.
But you know what? I've talked to these really young guys, and they prefer this shit. Like they actually
Really?
prefer this over the flower.
It's
I
like
don't
just
understand.
numbing.
Maybe it's just what they're used to, you know.
Could be.
Like I grew up in the '90s, and you know we're rolling.
Oh,
weed
me
and
too.
Stuff, so like,
What was your first concert?
Oh crap! My very first concert was Linkin Park.
Right on.
Yes, that was like circa 2000. I think I was like 18 or so. 'Cause
Right.
My parents wouldn't let me go to concerts when I was growing up, so I had to wait till I got out of the house.
Okay, my first was Meatloaf in the early, I guess, 70s at the Garden State Arts Center.
Yeah.
And we brought this half-ounce bag between me and one buddy, and
That's a lot.
my mother had to pick us up after the concert. Oh, it was a train wreck.
Concerts are always fun. It's always good to get out and kind of interact with the people.
Right.
See what's up. There's groups where you hear them on the radio and they completely suck. And then you
Yeah.
see them live and you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? And then
Yes.
there's groups that's vice versa where you're
Correct.
like on the radio. They're
It's
like,
so
"Yeah, this is
produced,
awesome."
and
yeah, and then
you get
check
there
them
and
out
it just sucks.
This is why I hate going to rap shows. Because rap shows, like I love rap and I love the art of rapping and everything, and I love that, but
Yep.
it just doesn't translate to a big concert. It's
know.
kind of meant more for a small intimate club where people are kind
Yes.
of getting into it and stuff.
Bouncing to
but
it,
when you
yeah.
see, like I've seen a lot of big name rappers and they're horrible. Like
Yeah.
it sucks. You can't reproduce that as opposed to like a rock band. You got the instruments going, you got the stuff going. Yeah, it was really
It's
really
a
really
blast.
good.
So, I mean, so much of what you and I talk about is about financial freedom.
Yes.
What's that mean to you?
Financial freedom is the ability to live the lifestyle that I desire without having to depend on anybody for anything. So meaning that I'm not depending on my wife to pay my bills, the government to pay me Social Security, my pension, me having to go to work, the stock market doing good or not. I mean,
so it's completely passive income.
Completely passive income.
It's like interest earned.
Yes, that is definitely
That's a
one of the
great
ways.
example.
That is one of the ways where you can produce
What are
passive
some
income.
of your other vehicles?
Right now, my main vehicle is real estate. So by trade, I'm a real estate investor, particularly cash flowing real estate. So the majority of my investments that I'm currently holding are either going to be multifamily properties or single family properties.
Right.
Because to me, that people are never going to stop fucking. They're never going to stop popping out kids.
Correct.
And they're not making any more land. So all of those people need somewhere to live. And that's just going to continue going on forever.
True. But you're talking about owning physical real estate, right?
Yes.
So if you're owning physical real estate, you've got to manage the property. Somebody's toilet backs up. How do you make that kind of investment passive?
Well, so what we do from that point is that then we turn around and make that into a note. So then we become the bank. So so you have to consider. I talk about buying and holding because that's the concept that most people can understand. You buy a house, you hold it for rental, you have the rent money coming in, and that you can understand it. If you, I don't know, let's say you had to borrow money from a bank loan, right, from a line of credit from your bank, and they're charging you 3%, and your monthly payments are going to be, I don't know, $300, and you're collecting $900 in rent. Then that math makes very, very simple sense. However, you do make a good point that it's not 100% passive, meaning that there's going to be other scenarios. So what I do on that point is that we switch them over to what's known as notes. So a note, for somebody that doesn't know, is basically what a bank gives you. It's a mortgage. It's a loan.
Yeah.
It's a deed, right? So at that point, it gives people that don't qualify to the traditional manners of buying a property for whatever reason, self-employed or whatever reason they had, maybe something bad on their credit or something along those lines. We help them get to a point where they're able to qualify, and then we become the bank for them. And at that point, we are completely removed. Now, I have a few properties here in Phoenix that I'm doing what are known as lease options. So I'm not necessarily the bank at that point, but I say, hey, so you come to me and you say, hey, man, I want to buy a house. I got divorced. My wife real screwed me. I got some money sitting on the side here. Typical story. Man, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're a low life. It doesn't mean that you don't know how to pay your bills. Because a lot of times people, they assume that if you can't buy a house the regular manner, then you have to be some type of low life. You just can't keep your stuff together. But a lot of, life happens. So anyway, you come to me and you're like, hey, my credit is really jacked up right now. It would be very irresponsible of me to give you a loan when you don't have the right credit, when you don't have the right structure in the meanwhile. So what I'll do is what's known as a lease option. Where I say, look, here's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lease the property for you for the next 3 to 5 years. I normally like to do 3 because if you can't fix your credit in 3 years, then you're not trying. Like you're not the type of person that's gonna be able to pay me back my loan anyway. So I give them a 3-year lease, and at that point I say, hey, you are responsible for everything. So at this point, you're gonna put some money down. You basically become, and for lack of a better term, the owner, even though you don't own the paperwork and stuff. I am legally bound to sell you this property at this price within the next 3 years. So if the market skyrockets, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to charge you more than what we agreed to on this particular price. And then when you come and you can buy the property, then you can either get a traditional loan or we can work out a seller financing, which is where I create the note. Both the lease option and the note basically remove me from having to deal with it, because in the lease option
you're making them the owner.
Exactly.
They're responsible for the backed up toilet,
all of that.
So that's how you get out of the day-to-day management of the property. A little harder to do that with a multifamily property.
Definitely a lot harder to do with the multifamily property. The great thing with the multifamily property is because you do have a lot of units in one central location, you can now get a property manager that handles most of it. So it may not be...
Is there a number of units that you can versus can't afford a property manager?
Honestly, it all depends on how you do it. The general consensus out there is about 80 units, where you can have a full-time property manager on site,
Yep.
which is ideal. Now, I've done all kinds of different angles before. I currently have one that is 38 units, so not the 80. What we do is we have an office and we have a 2-bedroom right next to it. So the compensation for the apartment manager is, hey, you get to live here for free. We pay all
Yep.
your utilities. We don't pay you any money, but you get to live here for free, and whatever, your husband can work, they can do whatever. You're over here managing. And the way that we structured everything, because of technology, really our property managers don't have to do that much.
Yeah. We just had a case. Your business and my business are very, very similar. And we just had a case where we were doing that with a property manager. He turned around years later, after he had been terminated, and said to an attorney, hey, I was working 100 hours a week and I wasn't being compensated for it. And it was hard for us to go back and prove that his rent and the free unit that, well, he actually took 2 units, were part of his compensation. So now all our employment contracts include that as, a clause. This is compensation, and we put a number to it.
Yes, and that's what we had to do also.
Yeah.
Recently, we hired somebody as a way to. So, in business, there's 2 types of income, right? There's working income, passive income. The problem is that most business owners really don't know anything about passive income, even if they say that they do, mainly because they're not willing to get their ego out of their way to basically say, hey, look, I'm an idiot. I don't really know how to run this thing. I need help. We need some help.
Right.
So we finally got to that point, me and my business partner, Chris. We got to that point, and in December, I hired this lady who her sole job is to come in and organize my business from top to bottom, every single thing. And the very first thing that we did was put in employment contracts specifically for that, to make sure that everybody's got their thing, everything is outlined, everything's going. And, as entrepreneurs, we're very fly by the seat of our pants, which is what allows us to take the risk to become entrepreneurs.
Right. But as you grow,
Yes.
your I's have to get dotted and your
Yes.
T's have to get
Yes.
crossed.
And people don't realize that. So a lot of times they're like, hey, man, I'm a hard worker. Let me bring another hard worker on board, and we're both going to work really hard. Yeah, that's fine. You're gonna elevate your strengths, but you're also going to elevate your weaknesses.
Yes.
So if you guys are both very disorganized, which me and Chris are very disorganized, that elevated, and we're like, oh, man, we need to get somebody in here. And the reason why I say that is because the other way that I generate income is through the businesses. So having a business structure, now you have to have a business system that allows the business to run itself. There's got to be day-to-day operation stuff, and that's exactly what we're doing with all of our rentals. We're structuring.
I happen to be a client of yours now. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're running a virtual assistant business out of the Philippines.
Yes.
And that's working out well?
Yes. So I am not officially part of that company.
Okay.
That is Chris's company. And I chose not to because I'm more of a singular focus type of person. However, Chris was running a accountability group, and he also runs a book club. And a lot of the people were like, hey, man, you're always talking about your VA, and we could use that help, and the what you pay them versus what you pay an American worker, the amount of effort that they put versus what American worker puts.
Oh, I have found that to be true.
It's ridiculous.
It's terrible.
It's ridiculous. So I just came back from Colombia, and I wasn't here last week because I was still recovering from my trip from Colombia. In Colombia, the women are not only beautiful, but they're also very nice. They're also very kind. They don't have a lot of attitude, and they're more on the traditional, know how to take care of their men. So I went on a few dates where the woman literally, like, as soon as the waiter came and put the beer, she would grab the beer, grab my cup, pour it for me, put it there, the plate would come, and we're on our first date,
Right.
So the reason why I say that is I come back to the U.S. and I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta date these American women now? It costs me this much more, and I get this much less effort.
Yeah.
When I, when that transferred over to business, when I went to the Philippines and we started getting the virtual assistants and we started growing our team, I was like, man, I was paying my old assistant fucking like $18 an hour or something,
Right.
and she was giving me attitude all the time, and half of the stuff was being done, half of the stuff wasn't being done. Where this person here, my new assistant, we're paying her $4 an hour. And she freaking loves me.
Right.
And she's like, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And people will say $4 an hour, that's highway robbery.
No, it's
you're
not.
abusing people.
No, you're not. No, you're
It's
not.
just not true. The
No.
cost of living there is so
So when
low.
we did research, and the average Filipino household throughout the country, the household is equivalent to $2.50 an hour.
Yeah.
When I was over there, I went to the Philippines myself because I'm a world traveler. I traveled to the city of Cebu. In Cebu, they have a really tall hotel. On top of the hotel, they have a roller coaster that goes around the top. And what it does is it actually forces you to look down, and it takes you around the whole thing, right? So I made really good friends with the guy who was operating it. And I was just talking to him, and I'm like, so how much do you make and stuff? This guy made in a month what my assistants make in a week.
Yeah.
Working 40 hours. Now, the second part of that is that my assistants do not have to leave their home. If you've ever been to the Philippines, especially Manila, it is a clusterfuck. I mean, you would wish to be in fucking Manhattan during rush hour. 'Cause Manila, I mean, I shit you not. You cannot, so when you go to like New York, when you go to Chicago, when you go to Los Angeles, it's really, really trafficy, but you see motorbikes. You cannot do that in the Philippines. It is so packed
I know.
that even bikes are like, keek, 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 keek. So it takes you 2 hours to get to work, 2 hours to get home. The trains are packed, the streets are packed, the taxis are, like, literally sometimes it's faster to walk than to sit in
What's the
freaking traffic.
population?
I don't know, but it is
It's
it's
just packed.
immense. My
Yeah.
friend told me before I got there, he's like, the one thing that I will tell you about Asia all the way around is you just can't imagine how many people there are. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I've seen the movies, I saw the
yeah.
show, and then you go there and you're like, God damn.
Yeah.
So
There's-
they don't have to leave their house.
Yeah.
They don't have to, like, shit, they don't even have to get dressed if they don't want to. And they're making more than double what the average person makes out there. You're not robbing them at $4 an hour. It's actually a win-win scenario.
It is.
And because they are making that much more, they tend to put a much more effort into what they're doing.
They're highly paid down there.
Highly paid.
Yes.
We were finding out that our assistants, depending on their task, depending on their level, they range anywhere from $4 to like $10 an hour, depending on their expertise skill. The people that are making like $6 an hour, that's about as much as a professional that's gone to, got degrees and stuff out there, architects and stuff, is probably making.
Yes.
So when you look at it that way, you're like, okay, they're benefiting, I'm benefiting, but more than anything, they're helping me create a system that then we can start replicating and automating, which is what me and Chris were doing for our real estate stuff.
Right. So one of the big things that you and I talk about is mindset.
Yes.
I mean, that's just huge for everything we're doing. So was there some turning point in your life that got you to the mindset you have today?
Oh yeah, there was actually a few different points. I would say the first one was just realizing that I needed work on the mindset. I had grown up very religious, so by the age of like 18, I said, fuck that, I don't want anything to do with religion.
Right.
So when I started getting into business, which was right about the same age of 18, people were telling me mindset and check out this guy, and I'm like, that sounds too much like religion. Like that sounds way too close. I'm not interested whatsoever. I would say the first thing that opened my eyes was this book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And the reason why is because not only was that guy a doctor, he was a scientist, but the last quarter or so of the book was literally filled with references. So he wasn't just saying, oh, well, some guy in India did this and this is how it happened. No, he was like, this study at so-and-so university said this. And in the back of the book was the references where you can actually go do the research to see what they said. And so the way he started explaining it, basically the point of it was that he used this analogy that I really loved. He said that our mind is like a submarine, and your subconscious is the engine that drives the mind. Now, your subconscious is below. You can't see anything. You don't know what's going on. You're relying on your conscious mind, which is the top part, the periscope, to tell you where to go. Your subconscious is just going wherever that is. So it started making sense to me. I'm like, God damn, why is this things keep on happening? Why do I keep on constantly getting in my way? Why is this hard for me and not hard for that person? Not physical stuff where, it was like, okay, well, obviously that
mental.
person's stronger or whatever, but it was all mental stuff.
Yeah.
That was a huge eye-opener for me where I really started, that was my first inclination that my mind controlled my life. It was still very hard for me to accept.
All your preconceptions, all the ideas your parents put in your head, and their preconceptions, that's who you are
And
at
I
any
didn't
moment.
even
unless-
understand that at that
Yeah.
point. I just understood that my mind controlled me. So then that happened. That was a few years gone by. And then I had the privilege and the honor of meeting our good personal friend, Mr. Jeff Fagan.
Yeah.
This was almost 10 years ago. It was a little bit under 10 years ago where I met Jeff Fagan. Now, at that point, I had been open to the idea, that my mind controlled everything, but I didn't really understand how it worked. It was kind of like saying, hey, when a girl walks by and you see a nice pair of booty, a nice legs, a nice breast, you're like looking at it. Yeah, I can tell you that happens, but there's a difference between knowing what happens and why that happens, which is the biology in men and everything else, right? So the first thing was there. Then I met Jeff, and he was like, come on to my Tuesday morning club, whatever. And he started breaking down why our mind works that way, which is what you mentioned, the programming that our parents put on us, society, teachers, religion, just think people in general. They were kind of putting their opinions as to what we should be. And that was really a big eye-opener for me, because to me that was, not only do I know what's going on, but I know why it's going on, which is so much more important. A lot of us know that we are not good at saving money. We just don't really understand why. A lot of us know that we're our own worst enemy, that we self-sabotage all the time, and we couldn't explain it to save our fucking lives. So when I came here and we started reading the books of The Secret of the Millionaire Mind, which is the same book that we've been reading for the last 10 years, literally going over and over and over, that was a huge mental shift in my life where I really, one of these days I hope to meet Harv. One of these days I hope to thank him personally, like eye to eye, look at him, because the way that he laid out the book, it wasn't like I hadn't heard the information before. I just hadn't heard somebody display it the way that it did.
Somebody resonated with you.
Yes, and I think the reason why it resonated with me was he made it very, very simple. So the book is split up into two parts. Part one is your blueprint, which is why do you think the way that you think? Where did that come from? He teaches you what's known as the process of manifestation, that tells you that your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. And if you push that further back, your thoughts actually come from your programming. So it goes into how you were programmed, which is what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've experienced. And he basically boils all that down. And then the second part is what's known as wealth files. So he's like, now that we agree that it all came from your mind and it all came from your programming, let me show you 17 different ways that rich people think versus how poor people think. The wealth file number one is rich people create their own lives. Poor people think that their lives happen to them, which is when you stop and think about it and you look back at all your conversations growing up, your friends, your family, your mother and stuff. Well, I would love to buy you that toy, Corey, but my job just cut my hours. I would love to get you that, but this fucking president, he did something wrong, and now the stock market is, and now I'm like, my business is not as good as this. I was gonna be happy, but that
Blame.
person, whatever, right?
It's all blame.
And that right there, he has 17 different versions of that, of how that is, like how rich people think about something versus how we think about something, and that right there just completely shifted my mind.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, we were talking about athletes briefly. There's a book out there called Relentless that resonated with me about how top athletes are always fighting against themselves. And that the game that they're trying to win isn't their opponent, it's their inner demons. It's whether they can do it. So that
every major athlete, specifically the ones that participate in a solitary sport, fighting, boxing, that type of stuff, or high level athletes that have the teams depending on them. So like on football, the quarterback, on basketball, the main star, the point guard, whatever. The people that have the attention going to them, pretty much every single one that is super high level has some type of mindset coach. Has somebody that helps them go through the stuff that's going in your mind. And honestly, that's why I started my own podcast, and I'm launching a program called Unfuck Your Mindset.
Right on.
Of course. Well, I wanted
when
to...
does it air?
So Unfuck Your Mindset comes every single Monday. We are on episode number like 11 or 12 or something like that. We're on iTunes. So just so you know, if you're looking for me on iTunes, the U in fuck is a little star. Because iTunes would not let me spell it out.
Of course.
But Unfuck Your Mindset. And it's been really resonating with a lot of people. We've got like 75 5-star comments. 5-star reviews over. We just launched probably 2-3 months ago.
That's awesome.
It's
Congratulations.
every single day, whether it's text message, Facebook message, Instagram messaging, somebody tags me on a post, somebody tags me on a story. Literally every single day, I get a message from somebody saying, "This is awesome. This is the shit. I needed to hear it." Because I understood the fact that people need to unfuck themselves. They need to unfuck their mind. How old are you, Corey?
58.
So you have 58 years of bullshit programming. And even after you learn this shit, it still continues. So let's say that 18 years ago you learned about, the mind and working on yourself and everything. That still puts you at 40 years. That's 40 years of bullshit that was not fed to you, but not only fed to you, but reinforced over and over and over and over. So at the time that you get to 40 and you're like, all right, I met Jeff. He's teaching me this. I completely agree. T. Harv Eckert is right. I really want to go through all that. It takes a lot longer to unwind. It doesn't take, you can't fix that by reading a book. You can't fix that by going on a weekend seminar. You can't fix that by going on a 2-week intensive. You have 40 years of fucked up mind. So that's what I've decided to do. But that's what a lot of athletes do. Because even when you reach, there's a saying out there, new level, new devil.
That's awesome. I'm going to steal that.
Please feel free to do it. It doesn't matter where you're at. Somebody might be like, I was watching this show on Netflix, and it was mainly, I was watching these first 2 episodes because they had to do with psychedelics, which is something that I've used a lot in a therapeutic way. Not like, hey guys, let's go get fucked up, but like really on a therapeutic, working on myself.
You're first now starting to learn about microdosing.
Yes. Microdosing, psychedelics, the benefits of stuff like magic mushrooms and LSD to battle depression, PTSD, those type of things. Anyway, the reason why I was saying that is I was watching a show on Netflix, and it's something having to do with Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow started some type of company. They're exploring some type of thing, and one of the things that they've been exploring is psychedelics and alternative medicines and stuff, right? So Gwyneth Paltrow has this guy come on who has a shaman guy who has kind of walked her through the whole path of doing psychedelics, and she said something along the lines of, I was having all this stress by becoming successful, and everybody just laughs at me and says, oh, look at that rich lady, she's over there, her life must be real hard, she's super rich and super beautiful and super successful. People assume that people like that don't have any issues. where becoming somebody like that brings a whole different level of issues.
Yes.
You know, how many times, I don't know LeBron James personally. I known that for a while. I'm not a super big fan of his. I'm just not a fan of his style and how he plays or whatever. Doesn't matter, but I know that there's a lot of people that don't like him. There's a lot of people that hate him. There's a lot of people that said really bad things about him when he switched from one team to another. Those people don't understand what it's like to be him. And so every new level brings a new devil. Every time that you evolve to somewhere else, there's something new that triggers in your mind. And a lot of it is the same bullshit. It's just your mind is really quick-witted to know how to switch it around, right?
Yeah.
Same shit, different sandwich.
And as you grow, those problems multiply, and your defects, your inabilities seem to sprout.
Yes, and what happens is that, like, if you consider a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your absolute best self that you will ever be, 1 being bottom of the barrel you, and let's say that for the longest time you've been a level 4 person, right? When you're a level 4 person, you're dealing with problems that are 1 through 4. And a level 4 problem seems like a super big problem. You eventually evolve and you become a level 6 person. That doesn't mean that 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are now going to stop. Those problems are still going to arise. They're not that big of a deal. When I first started my business, if I had an investor back out on me that promised $50,000 for a deal, I would have, oh my God. Now it's like, fuck man, whatever. Hey man, can you cover me here? Can you let me put a post on Facebook? It's become a kind of normal issue that I've had to deal with. However, a level 6 problem now becomes like, holy shit. So as you continue to grow, because if I was a level 4 person, a level 6 problem, I would have never been able to handle.
Correct.
So now that I'm a level 6 person, that's something that I have to handle. And as I continue going up the ladder, every one of those levels brings a new devil.
Yep. I like it. So
New level, new devil.
What's your why? You've achieved or are achieving financial freedom. What do you do with that?
Man, happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness is my why. I was hanging out with this guy, and I'm hanging out with him on Saturday. I'm so fucking excited, dude. I'm so fucking excited. This motherfucker doesn't work at all, and he literally makes millions and millions of dollars by not doing shit. And the less that he works, the more that he makes. And I had to go see it for myself. So at this point, he was living somewhere in Mexico. I'm like, I'm flying out there. I'm hanging out with you. So I went to go out. I was hanging out with him anyway. We're sitting there. We're riding through the jungles of Mexico in the truck. And I'm like, hey, man, so like vision boards and goals. And he's like, I don't do that shit. I don't waste my time with none of that crap. Affirmations or anything. He's like, get the fuck out of here. I don't do that crap. I'm like, well, really? What do you do? And he's like, I just focus on being happy. I said, shut the fuck up, dude. And he was like, Hakuna Matata. And I was like, oh, like the Lion King. I shit you not. He looked at me and he was like, what the fuck is that? He had never heard of the movie.
Never heard of the
movie.
It.
And I'm like, the Hakuna Matata, the thing that they're doing. He's like, I don't know about that. Hakuna Matata is from this African tribe, and it basically means, it's like a woman African tribe, and it means no worries. Absolutely no worries at all. So he's like, Brian, I only have 3 goals. I want financial freedom. So I want to have enough money to do whatever the hell I want to do. I want time freedom. That means I want to have enough time to be able to do what I want to do. And I want peace of mind. That means I don't want to worry about absolutely anything. So when I walk into a business deal, I look at those 3 things, and that's what it is. So my why is peace of mind. Literally peace of mind. I don't want to worry about anything. I don't want to have to be anywhere. I don't want to have to respond to anybody. I don't want to deal with anything. So in order for me to get to that point, I have to grow myself into the type of person that can be that.
A level 10.
A level 10 person.
Yep.
And that really has become my why. And the more that I travel, the more that I go out of this country, the more time that I spend living in these places, I'm like, wow, man, there's a whole different world out here.
Right.
As Americans, we're blessed and cursed at the same time. We are blessed to live in the best country in the world. And I say that from a political point of view, meaning that our country's fucked up. but
no
it's the
doubt.
least fucked up country in the world. We have the
best of the worst.
least fucked up government
Yes.
in the world. Every government's corrupt. Every government is
Yeah.
they're thieves, they're liars, they're complete manipulators. Every politician is a piece of shit, regardless of political
Absolute
influence.
power corrupts
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Everywhere you go. The biggest difference is that in this country, at least our politicians have the decency to lie to us. Of course I'm not stealing from you. Where when you go to these other countries like Haiti, they're like, fuck you, yeah, we're stealing from you, and we're going to take that. And by the way, that's a nice looking daughter you got over there, so like send her over here. It's a whole different world. So we're blessed to be in that. We're blessed to be in a place where we have infrastructure, where we have opportunity, where even if you're dead broke, you can go into a resource center and apply for a job, use their computer, walk into a fucking McDonald's, use their bathroom, use their Wi-Fi, whatever. There's not a lot of opportunities like that outside of it.
Right.
The problem with being an American, though, is that we're super close-minded, where we believe that America is the end-all, be-all of everything. So anything that happens in here is important. Anything that happens outside of there is not important. Even though, you know, America's this big and the world's this big,
Right.
we have that kind of disconnect from the real world, because everything is kind of, you wouldn't recognize it until you go outside of this country, but we're like the bubble boy. The government pads everything for us, makes it super safe, super nice, super neat, super here, but that creates a docile part of us. When you go to these other countries,
It's kind of what they want.
of course, that's what I would want
It's
too.
easier to manage.
George Carlin said, they make you smart enough to know how to run the machines, but they want to keep you dumb enough so you can't tell how bad you're getting screwed over by the system that threw you overboard 50 years ago.
Yeah, if you look at the distribution of wealth in the country, it's almost completely flat until you hit those last 500 or 1,000 people, and then it spikes. Yeah, there is no middle class. It's all lower class.
Yes. The problem is that because we live in America, we don't ever like to admit that. And our lower class is middle, high middle, upper class for most other countries.
Yes.
I was running an event through my nonprofit, and I decided to, because I always get money from different donors, right? So I decided to put it on Facebook Live just to show people, hey, what we're doing. We were passing out meals for Easter. My VAs from the Philippines were watching, and the guy messages me privately, and he's like, I thought you said you were helping out poor people, and I'm like, I am. He's like, well, why does that kid have Jordans? Why is there a 70-inch TV on that house? Did that look like a PlayStation 4 on his mantle over there?
Yeah.
Our level of poverty is not the same, but what that does is that creates a whole different mindset where when you see Americans abroad, it is one of the saddest, most pathetic things out there.
Right.
It's like watching a kid trying to swim and holding on to the side of the fucking pool the whole time because they don't know what to do without mommy holding their hand, which is the government.
Yeah.
So the more that I travel outside, the more that I realize, man, I really need to
It's really
expand.
eye-opening
Yes.
to do that.
On the flip side, though, because these people grow in such a tough environment, they never, ever, with very rare exception, have the ability to think past surviving the next day.
Yes.
And because you don't have the ability to pass surviving the next day, you never get into personal development. That sounds like a waste of time. Why am I going to go read a book where I can go make some more money because tomorrow is not promised? Tomorrow I may not do as good as today, so that means I need to kill it today, and I need to go break my ass out there and try to make it happen. You go to these countries as an American, and there's opportunity everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere. I realized this when I went to the Philippines. Most people just want a good job. And we have that here in America, but it's like 100-fold over there.
Right.
They just want a good job with a good salary. They don't ever want to do more than that. They don't want to take the risk of doing their own business. For them over there, everybody that they know owns a business, which means they're a solopreneur. They make tamales and they go sell them on the street corner. They buy candy and they sell them at the bus station.
And they can survive doing that.
And they survive doing that. But they're very limited in their mentality of you can only see this much.
Right.
So this is why I tell people you have to travel. I would suggest people from those countries save up as much as you can and come on over here and see what the opportunities are. People from this country save
to
up,
get
go
out
over there,
and go over
and
there.
see. First of all, see how lucky you are, and second of all, see how much opportunity is out there.
What are the top 3 countries you'd like Americans to see?
Oh my God, God, man, number 1 has to be Haiti.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up poor, American standard poor. My parents were from Guatemala, so I've been to Guatemala before, and I've seen poverty. It wasn't to the level that Haiti is. It was just a whole different world out there. That really, really puts things into perspective when you see people literally living in mud huts. When you see kids, they have I shit you not, some kids, multiple kids had it was a longer water bottle, but they had took the bottle caps, they had made wheels on each side, put a toothpick,
Oh,
they
no
had
way.
cut the top, they had filled it up with rocks, and then the cap right here, they made a hole with a string and a knot, and they pulled it, and that was their little car. And all these kids in this village had the same type of cars. And you're looking over here at these kids, and they're like, so that's number 1. Second one would probably be Japan. Now, Japan is not a poor country by any means necessary, but you can see what organization looks like. If there's one thing that the Japanese people, those motherfuckers are organized. They are organized. The trains, you can read the train thing and it says it's stopping here at 11:02. Right at 11:02. They have lines on the floor that say the train will stop right here. The train stops right there. As soon as the train stops, the door opens. All of the people waiting to get in move to the side. Everybody slowly walks out. There's a guy that comes in. He looks at, cleans everything, and then lets everybody in. Nobody rushes. Nobody pushes. Everybody kind of kindly walks in and kind of goes and follows that. And then the other country that I would highly suggest for everybody to go would be Cuba. Cuba is a time capsule of what happens when you don't ever evolve, when you cut yourself off from everything. As Americans, we love to believe that, oh, you go to Cuba and you see nothing but classic American cars. That's not the truth. You see them in the very small section of Havana.
Yeah.
And not only, because I've been to Havana, it's not just Havana, it's like only in that little square, the little tourist
But that's
square.
our impression of it.
Of course.
When you think of Cuba, you think of, classic
you
cars.
think class of American cars. The reality is that most of the cars out there are this ugly little box, this Russian piece of shit called a York or a Ukes or some crap like that. It is ugly, ugly. But and they're from the 80s too.
Right.
So you see what happens when a culture closes itself off, and metaphorically speaking, that would be you and your mind when you close yourself off from opening up and expanding to everywhere. One of the best things that we have here in this country is that we're a country full of immigrants. We can take ideas from all these different places and all these different scenes, and you can combine them and you can create something better. We have open trade with most other countries where you can take their goods, put our goods, and kind of move it. When you just lock yourself into a little hole, you get what Cuba became.
Yeah.
And so I would highly suggest Haiti. That
But
really
it produces
opens your
some
eyes.
awesome music.
Yes. But there's a lot of awesome music out there from
Yeah, there
other
is.
countries that didn't have to go through that. It's really sad when you go there and you see the ration stores. Where the people come in with their little tickets and they get their ration of rice, they get their ration of meat, milk, and cheese. That's really, really, really sad. It's really sad when you see people that don't, haven't been exposed to other things because their government decided we know what's better than you for yourself. We're going to tell you what to read. We're going to tell you what to look at. I was talking to my cab driver and I said something about having American dollars. And I was like, I could just pay you with $1, right? And whatever. He's like, no, man, it's illegal for us to carry $1. He's like, if we're caught with having any American currency in our pocket, we can go to jail. That's insane.
Yeah.
We don't realize how good we have it in this country.
No, you
we
have
don't
to get
realize
out
how many
in order to find
opportunities
that
we have
out.
in this country. Yes, and even somewhere like Japan, where they're more advanced in a sense, there's a separate part of Japan that is more behind the times.
Sure.
And that's what I really love about Japan, because it's kind of like going to the future and the past at the same time. But you also see the opportunities. And even though they're a much better society in the sense they're more advanced, or the capitalism and everything is kind of rampant and going over there, there's so many people and it's so packed out there and it's so expensive. It's really hard for your average Joe to go and start a company.
Right.
Even then, we have such a better opportunity over here.
Yeah. It's just amazing how good we have it, and we don't appreciate it.
We don't. I
At
was
all.
talking with my best friend who was born and raised here in Phoenix. And she's like, I'm kind of tired of living in Phoenix and I want to check this place out, whatever. So we're currently buying in Ohio. We're currently buying in Cleveland.
Right.
And she was like, oh, man, look, you can get the houses for that cheap and there's so this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but you have to live in Ohio. And she's like, well, what does that mean? Well, you have to deal with, it would be nice to get like seasons. And I'm like, I don't think you understand it. You have to live in Ohio, which can mean real hot, swampy in the summertime, crazy weather in the fall or spring. Crime ridiculous in some areas, and then you have the snow and the blizzards and all that stuff that are coming by. And I was talking to her, don't appreciate the fact that we have over 330 days of clear blue sky. Like not even sunshine, but not a fucking cloud in the sky.
It is paradise
amazing.
here.
You don't realize that because you've lived in it all your life. Where you're like, oh, that place is better, that would be nicer, that. But really, when those people, there's a reason why the majority of people moving to Arizona are from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because they don't have
miserable.
330 days of sunshine.
I don't know if you saw it, but we're buying in Indiana. And we did a live stream from there. It's cold. It's wet. Yeah, the houses are cheap, but so what? I don't want to live there. Right? I had a heart attack in 2013 and learned that my next breath isn't guaranteed. And once you internalize that, you start making choices about how important what you're doing is right this minute.
That happened to me 5 years ago when my dad passed away.
Right.
My dad was 52 years old. He didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He wasn't obese. He literally went to church every single fucking day. He was everything that you would say a good person doing the right thing should be. My dad always said, well, when I retire, I'll go ahead and I'll travel. I'll do this later. He kept on pushing everything back, never doing what he really wanted to do because he just had things to do. And then he got diagnosed with cancer, and by the time that they found the cancer, it was already like stage 3. It was already moving into his liver and stuff, which is basically, that's a death sentence. That's a death sentence at that point. I remember sitting there and just saying, wow, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
He did everything right. And he's dying at the age of 52 with very, very little money. If I were to guess, I'm pretty sure he died with less than $1,000 in his bank account. He probably had like 30 or so saved in his 401k or something like that. I mean, pennies. He didn't really have anything. Yeah. And I said, man, I didn't want that to happen to me. It really, like you said, it made me really consider the moves that I was making and why I was making them.
And how important they are. It's that every single move you make is important.
Yes.
And you have to enjoy it.
Yes.
You have to love what you're doing right this minute because you may not have the next one.
After I got introduced to Jeff Fagan, somebody from the group introduced me to a audio series called Your Wish is Your Command by a guy named Kevin Trudeau. And I was listening to that, and I was like, man, this is really, really interesting. It kind of took the movie The Secret introduced you to the concept of the law of attraction and what that was, but it didn't really tell you how to use it. And it didn't really tell you how you've been using it. The audio series that I mentioned, Your Wish is Your Command, basically took that to the next step, which is like, yeah, here's the law of attraction, but let me show you how it works. Let me show you how it's been working. Let me show you how you've been attracting all the bullshit that you complain about, right? In the audio series, he says, if you want to make this as stupid simple, like you want to make this like brainless simple, the only thing you have to focus on is being happy.
Yes.
Be happier than you are right now, whatever that means. So if you're depressed, even if you're angry, angry is better than being depressed. And vice versa. You don't have to be joyfully whatever, but if you just focus on being happy, and I know that sounds cliche, and I know that's easy for you to say. You're just came back from Colombia. I'm over here stuck in my job. Well, of course you can be happy. No, it doesn't work like that. I am here because I became happy first.
Yes.
This is just kind of the manifestation of the happiness. But I started listening to him, and when I heard this, I was going through probably the hardest financial time in my life at that point. I had a company that I started. I partnered up with somebody on some real estate stuff. I literally let my company die so I could work on the real estate stuff. And then when it came time to get paid out on the real estate stuff, the guy was like, yeah, it's not really going to work that way. So I said, go fuck yourself. And I went to go do my own thing. But by this point, I started from ground zero. And I just spent, like a year and a half working with this guy. My company was basically dying here because I hadn't paid no attention to it. And I'm sitting there, and the only thing that I could think of is anger. The only thing that I could think of is rage. The only thing that I could think of is like, man, this motherfucker, he took advantage of me, and he did this, and he did that, and he, putting the blame on somebody else. And I'm listening to this guy, and the guy's like, look, if you just want to make it simple, the only thing you need to do is focus on happiness. And then he said something that completely shifted my mind. He's like, stop focusing on objects. Because when you focus on objects, amount of money, cars, houses, whatever, your mind can combat that. It can come back and say, oh, that's not going to happen. How are you going to buy a new Mercedes where you have, you owe the bank $300 or whatever?
Right.
Focus on the feeling that you want to attract. So feel how you would feel knowing that tomorrow that new Mercedes is coming in, that tomorrow that raise is coming in. But like just how that would feel like, and just focus on that one feeling. And I started focusing on that feeling over and over and over, which in my term became fuck yeah. That was like my feeling. I was like, fuck yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. And every time I would have a negative thought come in my mind, I'd be like, thank you for sharing. No, thank you. Fuck yeah. What do I want to focus on? Fuck yeah. I am driving a fucking $1,500 97 4Runner, barely making it anywhere. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills that month. I have no idea how I'm going to. I just literally cut a check to the landlord knowing that I didn't have enough money in the bank to cover that check.
We've all done it.
Yeah, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm trying to let you guys
just
know.
A fact.
Yeah,
it's a data point.
Yeah, I was letting you know that that's where I was at. Despite being there, I chose to focus on fuck yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. And before you know it, things started coming that way. And it just came. So I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. When the guy was saying that I just need to be focusing on happiness, I thought he was full of shit. But I was at such a low point in my life that I was like, I got nothing to lose. I mean, fuck. I mean, this guy's saying something there. If it doesn't work, like, fuck, I'll be out of my ass in 2 weeks anyway. So whatever. I guess I'm going to give it 2 weeks of the old college try and go fuck yeah. When things started working out, and then they worked out again, 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 and it was like better, bigger. I was like, wow, there is something really to just focus on being happy.
Yep.
So fast forward 12, 13 years later, where I'm at now, I only focus on happiness. Why do I wear these silly little Dragon Ball shirts? Because it makes me fucking happy. Why do I carry a fucking stuffed monkey when I travel? Because it makes me fucking happy. Why do I like my house looks like a goddamn teenage Asian kid like a comic book store? Because it makes me fucking happy.
That's
like
right.
I do what makes me happy. There was a meme that I posted sometime last week that said, focus less on how your life looks and focus more on how it feels. And all I do is whatever makes me happy. I don't do business with people that I don't like. I don't care how much money I'm supposed to be making or whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't make me
It
happy.
brings you all this negativity and angst. It's not worth it.
Nope. And when I first started, my very first tattoo is right across my heart. It says hustle. I got that 15 years ago when I was 22. I was a young hustler, and I'm very proud of working hard and making it happen. And I'm the type of guy that's gonna get it in there, whether it wants to go in there or not.
Outwork everybody.
Yeah, outwork everybody, right? I
Now
look
it's
back now.
outlaugh everybody.
Yeah. Outjoy everybody.
Yes.
I am, and by the way, if anybody's watching, and I'm put this out to you too, Corey, I am the happiest person that I know, with the exception of my Cuban mentor that I'm about to go meet with in San Diego here. If you, anybody watching, or you know anybody that's happier than me, I would love to meet them, because I would love to learn what they know that I don't know.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I know people that have way, way more money than I do. People that have way, way more deals than I do. People that have way more doors than I do. People that are making way more passive income than I am. But I don't know any of those motherfuckers to be happier, genuinely happier. And I know because they message me in private. They talk to me in private. Man, I really wish, I own 3,000 doors, but it's such a fucking pain in the ass having to deal with this motherfucker and that motherfucker. Hey, yeah, but so when I see that, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I'm not chasing the dollar. I'm so glad I'm not chasing the status. I'm so glad I'm not chasing the house, the goal. My goal is to make $5 million this year. My goal is to make $1 million a month. My goal is to be happy. My goal is to be happy, whatever the fuck that means.
So what do you think about all these experts, gurus that are out there with their helicopters and their Lamborghinis, and that they don't really own, they lease or rent or rented for that one photo shoot? Or
you know what I think about them is they're no different than the guy at the club pretending to have money.
Right.
And all the people that fall for that shit are no different than the stupid ass women that end up with those guys just to fucking complain three months later. Oh, I mean nothing but liars. I mean nothing but assholes. Well, yeah, you're following the shiny shit.
Yeah.
I can't blame them, the gurus, for doing that, because that's what makes them money.
It brings them views.
When I used to buy from these wholesalers. This was many, many years ago. I used to buy from these guys, and I was their first buyer when they started their business, and they probably sold me 4 or 5 deals. About 2-3 months into our relationship, they decided that, hey, instead of just sending it to Brian that we know he's going to buy, why don't we just throw it out there and see what people will give us? So they started kind of like this auction system for their stuff. People were offering them $20,000, $30,000 more than I would be willing to pay. So obviously they were going with them. And I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset. Yeah. I said, hey, I completely understand. If there's somebody willing to pay you 20 grand more than I am, then by all means, take that money.
Yeah.
When they reproduced that and continued that system, I wasn't upset. I felt sorry for the dumbasses paying more, but I wasn't even mad at them. I didn't feel like they were robbing people. The same thing with the gurus. I'm not mad at them, because I know that they're only doing that. The guys only wear the fake gold chains because it attracts the fucking girls. Right. They wouldn't be doing it if it didn't attract the girls. So I think all of those people, those gurus, and this is where, if you're looking to get into something, be very careful of the shiny stuff. The gurus' only job is to sell the dream. Right. So I know this guy, and he's a guru. And I met him before he became a guru. I've known him for many, many years. He is now a super successful guru. I was having a conversation with him, and he was like, yeah, I just bought a new fill in the fancy car, right? Right. And he had just bought a previous fancy car 6 months ago. Now, he's the type of guru that actually owns the car. He's not leasing it. He just didn't buy it for the video. He actually bought it. So I'm like, dude, why did you just buy another one? Like, you just bought a fucking whatever earlier, and you just bought another one. And he's like, I have to, man. It's what the people want. I have to give the people what they want. So he's living in a high-rise penthouse condo, flying the fucking private jets, driving the cars, not because he wants to,
He needs
but
to.
because he needs to,
keep up the
because
look.
that's what they need to sell the dream.
Right.
I really caution people about that. You know, don't fall for the smoke and mirrors. That is one of those things that I've met actual millionaires and billionaires. The more money somebody has, the less they're like that. When you see somebody that is flashy, most of the time they really don't have money, or they haven't had that money for a long time. Most people that I meet that are super successful, that have been super successful for a while, all tell me that they've had that phase. They went through that phase.
Yep.
Everybody has the I came from nothing, now look at me, I'm the shit phase. Once you get past that phase, you get eventually to I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't have to pretend, which is why you see these memes of people like Bill Gates, of people like Steve Jobs, that they're literally just sitting there with freaking, jeans and whatever. But
In just the last week or two, one of my mentors said to me, go buy this expensive car. And, I said to him, look, that won't make me happy. It'll cause me stress. I'll worry about who's going to open a door and ding the car. And it'll cost me $9 zillion to get the ding fixed. It just causes worry and concern. And it's the exact opposite of the happiness that you and I strive to achieve.
Yes.
So
I like to use the example. I don't know him, nor do I feel any type of way, positive or negative, towards him, but I always like to use the example of a Grant Cardone. And the reason why is because everybody knows his philosophy, at least in business, which is 10x,
10x.
right? 10x your effort, 10x your results,
Everything.
whatever.
I'm right there with you.
How do I explain this? I believe that he means well. And I do believe that once you reach a certain level, if you want to reach higher levels, then yes, you should buy into this philosophy. The problem is that most people that listen to him are not at that level. Most people are kind of at the lower level. So they're like, well, I need to outwork the guy. I need to go do this. I need to go here. Then they feel bad because they can't. Then they feel bad because I'm working 18 hours and my neighbor's working 20 hours. I wish I was working 22 hours. Never fully satisfied.
Right.
And they're adding things to their life thinking that they want to make it better, when at the end of the day it makes it worse.
Right.
So one of the big thing right now with real estate investing, especially in the wholesale world, is scaling your business. Using VAs to scale your business.
Right.
Putting ringless voicemails and all this other stuff where you can automate to scale your business and go and buy outside of these markets. That sounds good in theory until you think about, well, fuck, now I got to spend $100,000 a month in marketing as opposed to $10,000 a month in marketing. Now I got to get a office to get all this stuff, and my acquisition guy, and my team, and my this, and my that, and my here. Blah, blah, blah. You're adding this big old pile of stress to your life because your end goal is happiness, because your end goal is peace of mind.
Exactly.
What the fuck is that shit? That's like
It's the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve.
Right. That's like me dating a fat girl and saying my goal is to end up with a girl who's super fit and healthy, and I'm going out with this obese girl. Like that doesn't make
It doesn't
any
make sense. Yes.
It doesn't comply. So like I said, I don't think that people like a Grant Cardone are out there purposely misleading people. I think that message resonates with everybody because we've all been taught you have to work really hard to make money. So it's a lot easier for people to be like, work harder, get harder, as opposed to let go, don't worry about it, focus on happiness. Why do you want that Mercedes? Why do you want
That's
that Lexus?
exactly where I was going. We were talking about death earlier. The day you die, you don't get to take any of this with you. So why do you have it?
And once again, people have their reasons. Everybody's got their different reason. If you were to boil down that reason at the end of the day, it's happiness. Whatever that is, it makes you feel good. Whatever that is. Well, Corey, why is it that you want the McLaurin, blah, 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 blah? And I keep on, well, it's because this, it's because that. Okay, boom, boom. Eventually, we boil down to, well, you know, when I was a kid and I was super broke, my mom bought me this one magazine, and that was the one car that was there, and I posted it on my wall, and I used to look at it every day, and I used to be like, man, if I have that, I'm gonna be a success. Well, boil that back down. Now you're just literally talking about happiness. You want to be happy. You want to have that car because it's going to make you feel successful. Why do you want to feel successful? Because it's going to make me feel achieved. Why do you want to feel achieved? Well, it's going to make me feel happy. Well, no shit.
Right.
So why do we go through this song and dance and smoke and mirrors where at the end of the day, all we all really want is happiness?
Did you have a car that would make you happy?
No.
Really?
No, you know, I've never been a car guy. I've never you know, guys always brag about, oh, look at that 65 Chevy that's got a 453 cubic, blah, blah. I'm like, you're fucking speaking
My
Chinese to me, man.
7-year-old is like that right now.
I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're fucking talking about.
Right.
I never had that. That's the one thing that I'm really... Growing up from an immigrant family that had very little money, and then being in a very religious family where the material stuff was not what God wanted us to have, I never really paid too much attention to that. I think the one thing that I really wanted to do when I was younger was travel. Growing up super poor, cable was not an option. Like it's not a necessity. Go fuck yourself. You're not going to get that. So when I was like 18, 19, I moved out and I had access to cable. And I saw the Travel Channel for the first time, and it blew my mind. And I was like, wow, that's what rich people do. That's what I want to do. Now I come to find out that you really don't have to be rich to travel. Where there's a will, there's a way. But that was like my big thing. If I could travel the world, that would tell me that
make me happy.
Yeah. I didn't know how right that was, but it was for a different reason. Traveling the world does make me happy, but it's not for the reason that I thought. Because back then I thought, well, if I travel the world, that means that I'm successful and I got money and I could travel because it takes money to travel, and you know, and I used to think that it makes me happy for that. Now, traveling makes me happy because it expands my mind. Traveling makes me happy because I could be whatever the fuck I want to be when I'm out there. There's no preconceived notions. There's no expectations from me. When I'm walking around in Thailand, these motherfuckers don't know who I am. They've never seen an episode. They don't care. I'm just a regular person. They've never seen me. They've never followed me on Facebook. They haven't seen any of my episodes anywhere. They haven't heard me anywhere. They haven't seen me on stage anywhere. I'm just a regular dude. That makes me happy when I'm exploring and traveling and finding all these things. And I do, you know, truly believe that most people really need to reevaluate what makes them happy. Because if you really dial down what makes you happy, which is when my mentor said financial freedom, time freedom, and peace of mind, that was like, boom, peace of mind. That's what I want. That's what really would make me happy. If I don't ever have to wake up for shit, if I don't have to do anything, if I don't have to get up or do or answer or respond or anything, that would make me super happy. That's when I started kind of gearing my life to what it was.
So how do you balance drive with that? Because it almost sounds like, don't worry about anything, I don't need anything, I don't want to work hard. How do you find motivation and tie that to happiness?
So that has been a conundrum that I've been dealing with. Not the motivation part, because fuck motivation. I don't need motivation. And unfortunately, most of us believe that we need motivation, which is why people go to like somebody like a Tony Robbins and they come out and they're like, he's so awesome and he's got so much energy and I'm so pumped and hell yeah, we're going to change our life and boom, 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 boom. And then they go back home and nothing, right? That doesn't mean that Tony Robbins didn't deliver what he promised he was going to deliver. That didn't mean that he didn't pump you up with all his energy and send you off. That just means that you go back to your normal bullshit life. As I progress in my journey, I realize that I need to not stress. I need to not worry about money. The less that I worry about money, the more money comes to me. The less I worry about success, the more success comes my way. The less that I care about what happens, the better things work out for me. And I've been really struggling with that because I know that that's the right way, but I don't know if that's the right message to tell people, especially when they're first getting started. Because I believe that when you're first getting started, it does take a large
work
amount
and
of
effort
work
and
and effort
motivation.
and motivation and tenacity, and I'm going to make it happen because I'm going to make it happen. But if you only know that, you're going to burn yourself out because you're going to constantly be.
Yeah.
So there is a big shift between, it's almost like you need all this energy to lift up, but once you're here, you need to back off because you're going to go through all your gas. You just need to coast, you need to kind of go there. So for me, I don't have issue finding motivation. My motivation is peace of mind. My motivation is hanging out on a beach somewhere in Thailand. My motivation is, man, I don't really want to deal with shit. However, though, for most people that are getting started, you have to understand that you have to work hard initially. But, and this is the important part, keep in mind that whatever it is that you're doing, constantly and always be thinking in the back of your head, how can this be done without me? When you start off as an entrepreneur and you have the tenacity and you have the drive and you're finally making things happen, eventually you only rely on yourself. I can make it happen. I hired this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. Get the fuck out of my way. I can do it myself. That my accountant doesn't know what she's doing. Get the fuck out of my way. I can do it myself. You're always kind of stuck in that, and you will always be stuck in that if you're constantly just thinking about yourself. So it's a struggle for me where, like, I have a son who is about to be 18, and I want to teach him that the less I work, the more I make. But I don't want him to get the wrong idea that you can just start off by kicking it in your couch from the beginning. Technically speaking, you can. Most people just don't have the mental capacity to do it. Because what people don't understand is that I don't physically work hard, but I work damn harder than most people do because I'm constantly working on my mind. And I've been a laborer. I've been a physical laborer. I could work 10, 12 hours a day, get home, and still have energy to party. If you put me on a very highly intense
Wait till
mental...
you get to 58.
Well, yeah, of course. But, and I have no intention of doing physical labor work.
Right.
At the same age, early 30s, late 20s or whatever, when I went from doing
You can
physical
do that.
labor
Yeah.
to like, man, we have a really intense meeting that took 4 hours, and we're not checking our phones, we're not checking our messages, we're highly just focused on the one thing, and we're doing it. Those 4 hours right there of highly intense focus, you're fucking mush for the rest of the day.
That's right.
So
a lot of people don't recognize that.
No. So when people look at me and they're like, "Oh, Brian, all you do is smoke weed, and you just hang out at home, and you're always like partying with pretty women, and you're always like having dinner here, and you're getting interviewed over there. Like, oh man, what a tough life you have over there." You don't understand what's going on in here.
That's right.
Because in order for me to have that and keep that and continue growing forward, I have to spend the majority of my time up here, which is where I believe that somebody can start from the beginning and create wealth without putting in the physical work. However, most people just don't have the mental capacity to put in the mental work. And the only thing that they understand is the physical work. At some point after doing the physical work, like you've understood, like I've understood, we eventually come to the conclusion, fuck, I am getting in my own way. I am my own worst enemy. There's something inside here that keeps on pulling me back, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I should go deal with it. But most people are never going to get there unless they put in the hard work initially to put. Now, once again, it's physically possible to do it. It's just not probable for the large majority of people out there.
Yeah. They just can't get out of their own way.
No, I mean, imagine this. We got this guy right there who wants to be a real estate investor, right? And I'm a successful real estate investor. You're a successful real estate investor. I have a course that says, hey, I'm going to teach you how to unfuck your mind, which I do. I call unfuckyourmindset.com. I'm going to teach you how to unfuck your mind. I'm going to teach you how to do this. You may or may not make money for the first 2 years, but I promise you, if you get this down, you're going to be set for the rest of your life. That's going to cost you $1,000, right? You have a program that says, hey man, I'm going to teach you how to wholesale in any market, and if you follow my system, you'll make money within the first 3 months. And you look at Joe, he made $10,000 and $20,000, and my program is also $1,000. Who do you think the new guy's going to go with?
It's going to go with the wholesaler.
Of course he is. because they don't understand anything different. Our programming has dictated us. If you want something, you have to work hard. If you want something, go get it. Go get a job. Go do this. Go save money. Go, and they brought us into this realm where we don't know outside of that. So it's very hard for me to convince, even if I know for a fact, hey man, if you follow my system and if you do this, it's going to unfuck your mind and you can do whatever. Not just real estate, but whatever, and you could be successful. You could literally back into shit and still be successful. My very first apartment complex, I should have lost that thing 5 times. Like, I shit you not. I didn't sign paperwork in time. I didn't send paperwork in time. I forgot to send in the deposit. Like, the guy was literally like threatening to cancel the contract. Oh shit, my bad. Let me send in the wire right now. Sorry, dude. Chris, my business partner, was losing his mind. He's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, how could you be so lackadaisical? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's all gonna work out. And sure as shit, it all worked out. In order for me to make that happen, though, many years working on this. And that's where people don't really understand. So I understand why people are attracted to the shiny shit, the helicopters, the private planes, the Lamborghinis, the nice houses, the this and that. And I also understand why people don't particularly understand the mindset. However, in my experience, I've noticed that everybody that starts here with the shiny shit at some point recognizes I'm my own worst enemy and I have to work on myself. Yeah. I can't convince that. There's nothing that I can tell that metaphorical kid.
There's something that everybody has to learn for themselves. All of this. You and I can talk about it forever, but until they experience it, until they're ready for it, they're not going to get there.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Can't make him drink.
And the other one that Jeff taught me the most is when the teacher is ready. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes,
when you are ready, when you understand, I need this, all of a sudden, boom, it's there. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about working on myself and personal development. Once you start realizing that it's nobody else's fault but yours, once you start realizing that you control everything, once you start realizing that person that screwed you over, your wife that took you for all your money, that girlfriend that lied to you, that husband that cheated on you, that business partner that stole from you.
All your fault.
It's all your fault. Yeah. You attracted them, you kept them, you gave them the benefit of the doubt, you had kids with them, you loved them.
Yeah. Let me throw a scenario at you. You're in New York, there's a bus coming, you step off the curb and get hit by the bus. How do you look at that situation?
It was meant to happen. So here's the real funny thing, and I went through this a few years ago. It's very easy to say things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. Everything happens for a reason when things work out. Like, it's very easy.
But that statement is saying that you don't take responsibility for anything.
It's not that. It's just everything is supposed to happen the way that it happens. Meaning that when you put yourself out there and you start putting out this vibration, you're going to attract something. Now, what we think and how we think is going to happen is never ever correct. There's a saying out there that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. That doesn't mean that I'm not taking personal responsibility for that. If something were to happen, I mean, fuck, I stepped off the freaking curve. Okay, whatever. I didn't look. Okay, whatever. I still got hit. What if I wasn't? What if I was minding my own business and I was just doing everything fine and the bus was avoiding a car and jumps the curb to hit me? Like, I didn't physically do anything for that. However, what I did do is I put something out there. So, for example, I told the universe a few years ago, I'm ready to level up. I've been doing all this stuff. I'm ready to really hit the next level. The next 3 years of my life were literally the best years and the worst years of my life going on at the same time. When my dad was dying, mind you, we're Guatemalan immigrants. I came from absolutely nothing. I grew up in the streets of LA. Getting to a point where I was flipping 10 houses at a time, that was like amazing. I literally hit, I was at number 8, and then literally the day that my dad went into hospice, I hit 10 houses that I was flipping. That was a big milestone that I was looking to hit. and he's in fucking hospice. My dad that didn't smoke, didn't drink, went to church every day, all this stuff, right? He was in fucking hospice.
It's so unfair, right?
It is unfair, but whatever. It created what it created. The next year after that, I was buying my first apartment complex, and this girl lied to me and betrayed me, and I ended up with a fucking kid, even though it wasn't supposed to happen and everything else. And I didn't defend myself, and she's out there saying that she's pregnant. Everybody's blaming me and saying, you piece of shit, you just knocked her up and you left her here, where it was almost the complete opposite. While I'm getting my first apartment complex. The year after that, I'm buying my first apartment complex out of state. And I'm the girl that I thought I was going to marry. I was like, this is the love story of the century. This is awesome. She decides to break up with me one day for reasons that I still don't know, and tell people that I was fucking hitting her. Tell her that we were in some type of domestic violence where we never even had like an altercation to begin with. Right. All of that stuff was going on at one time. Now, all of this stuff was going on. And in my mind, in my soul, I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal, I go out of my way to help people. I literally felt like the Bible story of Job, where every single thing was going wrong and I didn't understand because I did everything right and I couldn't get it. After all that happened, my ex that said that I was hitting her, she then turned to my assistant who had been working for me for like 3.5 years. Honestly, me and this girl were like super close. I really loved her like a sister. My assistant turned her back on me. She was like, well, you're a piece of shit and you're this and that and blah, 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 blah.
All of it untrue.
All of it untrue. At this point, it's like the thing with my dad, that hurt me. The thing with the ex and the baby, that broke me. The thing with the girl lying about me hitting her, that shattered me. And my assistant, like, literally just kicking me, that pulverized me. I was to the very bare, I was broken down to everything. At the same time, you and everybody else around me didn't know what was going on. Because I wasn't posting about it on Facebook. I wasn't throwing pity parties. I wasn't like, I was just dealing with myself. So to everybody outside, everything was going good. Look at Brian. He's flipping. He's buying houses.
You're falling
Internally,
apart.
I'm falling apart. I then go to Sedona, and I spent a few days up there healing and meditating, taking psychedelics, and really like going into myself internally. And I was able to build myself up from the absolute bare bottom minimum. And it was really hard for me to understand while I was going through it. Once again, I felt like Job. I was like, why is this happening? I don't understand this. I understand if I do somebody wrong, I get something wrong. That makes perfect sense to me, but I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm running a nonprofit.
Your dad didn't do anything wrong?
My dad me, and I come out from the other side, and all of a sudden things became clear. And I realized that all of these things had to happen. If my dad hadn't passed away or started passing away, I would have never started traveling. If my dad didn't pass away, it wouldn't have put me in a emotional status where I was open to my first relationship, my first serious relationship, which was where my baby came from. If that girl hadn't lied to me and betrayed me, I would have never been in the position broken up with my previous assistant. And if all that stuff hadn't happened, because one of the things that happened between the girl with the baby, the girl that said I hit her, and my previous assistant, when all that happened, it kind of removed people from my life. When my ex was, when she was talking about being pregnant, now, never once did she say, hey, Brian knocked me up and left me, but everybody assumed that. So because people assumed that, they all started taking their own stuff. People that I thought were my friends, people that I thought knew me better were like, you piece of shit, you motherfucker. Oh, perfect, thank you. So those people left. When my ex-girlfriend did what she said, there was a handful of people that were kind of like still stuck around. She kind of helped shake them off the tree. And then when the assistant did what she did, then that was like my inner circle. And she was like, so-and-so, and you think he's your friend, but deep down inside, he's offering me money to go work for him instead of working for you. And I was like, really? What the fuck? How?
Yeah.
I realized after the fact that had all of that stuff not happened, I would have never been broken down to the point where I can rebuild myself. I brought this upon myself. I asked for it. I said, universe, I'm ready to happen. I still brought it upon myself. So when I say things happen how they're supposed to happen, everything happens for a reason, I'm not diluting any responsibility from myself. Fuck it, I brought it on myself. I asked for this. I asked to reach certain heights. In order for me to reach certain heights, I have to become that person. When I came back down from Sedona, I didn't tell anybody about my experience. I didn't say, hey, this is what happened, whatever. I called a few friends. All three of my closest friends, they all said the same thing when I called. You sound different. You sound at peace. There's just like, what the fuck did you do, man? You sound like Master Yoda. Like what the hell happened up there? I realized at that point that I needed to go through all that bullshit. The 3 years of having the best shit and the worst shit happen, both pulling me simultaneously in order to stretch me to I struggled because up to that point, before that little tumultuous 3-year series, I was always very like, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason, everything happens for a reason, everything happens for a reason. And then it started happening to me, and I was like, oh, well, hold on, well, wait a minute, everything happens for a reason except for this. Like, no, I fuck that bitch. Like, she lied to me. Like, fuck her. I didn't do nothing to attract this. I had to continually be broken down until I realized, yes, you did something. You did attract this person. You did bring this into your life. You asked for this. You asked for that. You asked to be brought and raised and do this. In order for you to get there, you had to go through that. And that's a big, big thing that most people just don't want to take responsibility. So if I were to get hit by a bus, maybe getting hit by a bus stops me from going to this country where I would have been kidnapped. Maybe getting hit by a bus has me sit on a fucking hospital for 6 months where I get to reevaluate my life, where I get to rethink what I wanted to do. I met a girl in Mexico who had broken her back, and she kept on wanting to quit her job, and it wasn't until she broke her back and she had to be in the hospital for 6 months or whatever that she finally said, you know what, life is too short. I'm quitting my job tomorrow, and I'm finally doing what it is that I want. The thing that we think is bad is normally not bad. And just like vice versa, the things that we think are good may not necessarily be good either.
That's awesome. It's been such a pleasure having you on Mortgage Minute today. Any parting words?
Yeah, I would. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. I know that
my
we see each other. We
but
talk all the
hardly
time.
get to talk.
But we hardly ever get to do like
we'll
this.
Have to go hang out and hit the pad.
We will definitely have to hang out. Second of all, for any of you guys watching, if you guys are not following me on Instagram, make sure that you follow me at Cashflow Creator. One of the things that I love to do, and if you follow me on social media, you know that I'm constantly uploading my stories. I share my life as much as I possibly can, my everyday life. I want to show people that I'm just a regular dude I'm an ordinary guy doing extraordinary things, but I'm still an ordinary guy. Yeah. And then lastly, if you guys haven't, make sure you go follow and check out my podcast at Unfuck Your Mindset. And if you go to follow me, make sure that you find me on iTunes. It's the U and fuck is a little star, but Unfuck Your Mindset. Do me a big favor, subscribe and leave me a 5-star review. I'm at like at 75 reviews right now. I'm looking to get at 100. Yeah, 75, all 5 stars. That's awesome. I've had the pleasure of working with this girl who's helping me develop the podcast and everything. This is what she does for a business. And she's like, wow, the response that we're getting is ridiculous. Most of my clients get 400 to 500 downloads their first month. You got 1,500. Most of my clients get 5 to 10 reviews. You're like at 50. The response has been real crazy. So if you guys are interested in a little bit more, you like my style, you want to check it out, I'm on episode number like something like that. And if you guys are ready to to Unfuck Your Mindset, go check out my site at www.unfuckyourmindset.com. You can check out the program where I literally walk you through step by step how I unfucked my mindset. It's a year-long program. It's 12 modules. Every module has got 4 classes, so there's 48 lessons in there, weekly lessons with homework and everything, where I literally guide you through step by step how to unfuck your mindset, or how I unfucked my mindset.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And this is Corey Schwartz with the Mortgage Minute.
Awesome.
Well done.
Thank you.